its important work.
Well, indeed, it is official. NASA is going to court to, quote, lay before the world the making of a computer-generated leader, unquote.
That essentially means the impending inauguration of President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta on the 29th of this month is not happening.
NTV's Trevor Ombija highlights the timelines and important dates to take note of. Trevor.
Thanks, Mirti and Mark. First up, and I want to show you here on your screen, is that NASA only has 2 days to file the presidential petition, and that brings it to August 19th. Essentially, they're supposed to file a presidential petition after 7 days from the day of the declaration of the results. That happened on Friday, slightly past midnight, so essentially that's Saturday morning. That's the reason why that date is set now on the August 19th. But also, away from that, August 22nd, this date doesn't change. This is the time when members of parliament are supposed to be sworn in. This one remains the same because the petition does not affect them. However, this date essentially changes. Like Sheila mentioned earlier on, in Smriti and Mark have said that they're going to have to put this on ice. This is the date that the president-elect, who's President Uhuru Kenyatta, was supposed to be sworn in at the Kasarani Stadium. In fact, there are preparations already being done earlier on today, but that will have to be put on ice for now. The Supreme Court too has a timeline. They have 14 days to determine the petition. That runs the calendar up to September 5th. And that is also what the number they're trying to work with. The 7-judge bench will decide on that by September 5th. September 12th, that is when the president-elect will be sworn in after the petition is determined. This essentially means that if the current president-elect is upheld as the duly elected president, that is the date that he will be sworn in. But should that not be the case, that is where the rubber meets the road. This is the date that there will be a runoff. That is 60 days after the determination, and all Kenyans will have to go back to the polls. Mark and Smriti, I was speaking to Kanjama earlier on, and he mentioned that in the meantime, the president-elect remains, who is also the incumbent, remains the president, albeit with a little bit of power supply being cut a bit. He cannot exactly fire cabinet secretaries, for example, but he still holds the office as the duly elected president. Mark?
Thanks for those important dates to diarize, and it's going to be a busy time for the courts the next few days, of course. And to the concerns that are being raised over the elections, Dr. Ekuru Aukot, who conceded defeat after the 2017 presidential results were declared, now alleges that the IEBC has denied presidential contestants access to the original forms 34A and 34B, even as forms with discrepancies continue to emerge.
Well, speaking to NTV, Aukot maintained that forms 34A from certain polling stations in Embu and Kisumu had glaring mistakes.
And Oxycolia reports that revelations on the forms have elicited mixed reactions among Kenyans that appear informed by political affiliations.
Controversy struck the IEBC on Tuesday after one of the forms, 34A, posted on its website, showed that it was handwritten on a piece of paper. The form, with votes from Buladadacha polling station in Elwak South, Mandera County, was different from the rest that are printed out and bear the IEBC logo. Top election officials acknowledged this as an error whose source will be investigated.
We are already investigating. We've requested that that officer be investigated to find out actually what happened during the relay of results.
But as soon as the IEBC pulled down the piece of paper, another controversial Form 34A was discovered on the Commission's website. The form from Marinyin Primary School, polling station number 01 in Chepchabas Ward, Konoin, Bomet County, had discrepancies. The form had no results for the presidential candidate. And after the Form 34A generated a lot of heat on the social media platform, IEBC posted another set of Form 34A with complete details of the presidential results. The Commission then posted on its official Twitter handle the new Form 34A, denying the existence of the first blank Form 34A, which ironically still remains on the portal. IEBC is yet to respond to a question about the origin of the blank Form 34A. Ekuru Aukot, who contested in the presidential race and considered, says preliminary results of his audit of the presidential results reveal lots of dots that are yet to be joined.
If I just discuss with you some of the anomalies, for example, there is a school called Mukororia somewhere in Mbere, Embu, where Only I, Ekuru Aukot, got 223 votes and everybody else got 0. Now, you may wonder, is that even possible? Taking into account our politics. There is Kisian polling station somewhere in Kisumu where Raila Amolo Odinga got 0. You know, there are forms that we are coming across right now which were either stamped, some are not stamped, some are not signed. My team has even tried to call some of the people who are supposed to be agents in those forms, and some of them are expressing utter shock that actually they are alleged to have been in a presiding officers or agents.
IEBC says all forms 34A and 34B have been uploaded on the portal. But with all glaring anomalies, Okot and NASA coalition have been demanding access to the forms 34A and 34B. Okot says IEBC has not been responding positively to that.
They are trying, it's like IEBC is behaving in such a manner that they are trying to clean up. You know, that's exactly what's emerging, that they are trying to clean up. Something is not adding up. You know, by now IEBC should be telling our agents and the parties, we have a warehouse where you can have all these original 34As, 34Bs, and finally 34Cs. Go and inspect them.
As it is, the mystery of the controversial forms 34A will remain just that, a mystery. Enoch Sikolia, NTV.
Now, the Kenya Human Rights Commission and the Africa Centre for Open Governance have received a court order stopping the police and the Kenya Revenue Authority from raiding their offices.
This morning, AFRICOG foiled a raid by the two organizations that had come to its offices in tense exchanges at the AFRICOG offices in Lavington. Our reporter Andrew Ching filed the following report.
The happenings at the AFRICOG offices in Lavington were tense from the beginning. The officers from the Kenya Revenue Authority had arrived in 2 vans to implement a search warrant. Their orders were to take away vital documents and computers from the premises, but they could not be let in, and soon the gate was teeming with members of the civil society from numerous organizations, including a seething executive director, Gladwell Otieno.
Are you not ashamed of yourself? What are you? How dare you? This is not how a government behaves. This is how a government of thugs behaves. You don't do this. We are law-abiding citizens. We pay our taxes. Have you ever followed those MPs for whether they pay their taxes?
When the officer leading the operation removed the warrant, lawyers representing AFRICOG combed through it and came up with glaring irregularities. The warrant, they claimed, was blanket and had not specifically addressed itself to the organization or its director.
Strangely, and why we are saying it's highly likely a forgery, the order they are seeking to execute does not have even the name of the purported magistrate who has signed it, who authorized this.
Still, the officers were keen on implementing the orders, saying that if AFRICOG had problems with it, then it should challenge it in court.
That is a valid court order. The grounds you've raised concerning the legality of the order or otherwise, and whether there is a KRA police or not, there is a police within KRA, those are matters for the court to determine. I think for us then what we would want us to do is you allow us to comply with the order. Unless you have another order stopping the compliance with that particular order, then that we can address in court.
The officials appeared to have been working on the directive given by the CEO of the NGO Coordination Board, Fazul Mohammed, who in a letter to the KRA, the Central Bank of the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, had wanted AFRICOG to be closed.
Well, the government insists that some weighty issues dealing with the registration and taxation have been raised. The NGOs say that they have done nothing wrong and that really there is nothing to see here.
AFRICOG is not registered under NGO Coordination Board because it's not registered under that framework. It's registered as a company limited by guarantee, which is a proper and legitimate legal way to do things.
As AFRICOG, as the chairman of AFRICOG, I have not actually been made aware that there was any question being asked of us with regard to these issues. I'm one who signs the accounts, and other documents. So I would have known if there was an investigation or if there were questions, if there were issues that needed clarification. We've always been very free and easy. So this is a very unfortunate and development that's taking place, and a waste of public resources and a waste of the very taxes which they've ostensibly come here to collect.
There have also been reports that due to its history of filing petitions against the Jubilee leader since 2013, the activities against AFRICOG could be meant to stop it from filing an appeal challenging the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta.
If indeed this regime, if these guys think that what's been going on the last few weeks, the last week or so, is indeed legitimate, why are they attacking people who are critical? For what reason? If you have won, as they say they have won, why are they fearing? These are acts of people who have stolen. This is how thieves operate.
AFRICOG and the Kenya Human Rights Commission have now obtained High Court orders barring the government agencies from raiding their offices. The acting Interior Cabinet Secretary, Fred Matiang'i, has also ordered the NGO Coordination Board to back off and allow for the issues to be handled through a committee that has been formed by the Principal Secretary. Meanwhile, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has condemned the raid on AFRICOG and wants the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Interior to operationalize the Public Benefits Organizations Act.
It was something that was mutually started by the NGOs working in tandem with the government, because there was need for us to have a tighter regulatory framework that brought all public benefit organizations together, so that we do away with the concept of what we had heard about the so-called briefcase NGOs, people operating who are not accountable to anybody, and that is what we wanted to actually seal. So I think the continued non-operationalization of this act really is a disservice to the sector, because then we are not getting its full potential.
The new law, they say, will ensure that civil society organizations are registered under a new regime and will abolish the NGO board, which is headed by Fazul Mohammed. Andrew Ochieng, NTV.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Interior has acted swiftly following that directive from the order by the Acting Cabinet Secretary, Fred Matiang'i.
Now, the committee appointed by the Principal Secretary will be chaired by Joseph Irungu, who is the Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government. The meetings are supposed to be held from Friday at Harambee House.
The committee will comprise of an official, each from the affected organizations, AFRICOG and the Kenya Human Rights Commission. Also, in the committee will be a representative of the NGO Council and the NGO Coordination Board.
AFRICOG and KHRC have been asked to come with their registration certificates, list of board members or trustees, their tax compliance certificates and their lists of donors over the past few years.
They will also need to provide details of the funding they have received and purposes of the funding. And the committee will also deliberate on the projects carried out in the last 3 years by the two organizations.
Well, they are also required to come along with a list of their staff, including details of expatriates that they've employed.
This crackdown on the civil society is not a new phenomenon, neither is it unique to the Jubilee government.
It is an old script repeating itself, quite synonymous with the repressive KANU regime, a government which is bent on subverting the law.
But even as the Kenya Human Rights Commission and the Africa Center for Open Governance struggle to regain their footing, the warning is out.
Ken Majungu reports that the happenings could be a means rather than the end.
The Kenya Human Rights Commission and the Africa Center for Open Governance are increasingly becoming the face of the struggle for the restoration of the alternative voice, that voice that can only be heard through the activities of the civil society movement. While today they obtained a temporary reprieve, those watching hold that it's a retreat, not a surrender, a tactic that prepares the attackers to launch even more severe onslaught. The next stage could be worse, more punitive and with a higher level of impunity.
As for me personally, I've been involved in this struggle for many, many years. And we do this work not because it has got any benefit to us, but because we believe.
KHRC and AFRICOG are victims of their own doing. They are the first to publicly poke holes in the 2017 general election. Their resolve to go to court might have irked the Jubilee government, and now they are on the receiving end.
The president would be moving us to a bandits government. He wants to turn his own government as a bandits government, a government Yawakora.
But why? History reveals how successive governments have dealt with the civil society. In the 80s and 90s, the Moi government pushed the civil society to the wall, cut off their feet and weakened them significantly, at times synonymous with detention without trial, a time that saw the rise of the civil society movement.
Arbitrary detention, and there are several people who actually suffered during that time. Now, the main reason now for this particular muzzling is in order to camouflage other ills. Now, the other ills are corruption, extrajudicial killings, and also the lack of rule of law.
This was a tactic to suppress that voice that had taken up the space of the opposition. The single-party rule was committed to stem every discontentment, and silencing political critics was easier than dealing with the civil society.
At that time, the civil society was the de facto of opposition, but that was the main reason. And people agitating for constitutional reforms and also opening up of the political space and registration of other political parties.
Some of those who bore the brunt of the suppression of the civil society at the time include Kenneth Matiba and Koigi Wamwere. The others remain rooted. Some, such as Martha Karua, Maina Kiai and Kiraitu Murungi, are also known for the struggle for the space they have so far enjoyed. The rise of the civil society as the unofficial opposition in Kenya, however, solidified after the events of the 2007-2008 post-election, which was largely disputed. The court process that followed, however, lay bare the relationship between the civil society and the government, as they were accused of being agents of foreign forces keen on destabilizing the country.
Attacks on the civil societies happen when government of the day feels insecure. The insecurity that we have seen from 2013 stems from the fact that the Jubilee administration came to power on the threshold of, or against the backdrop of, the International Criminal Court cases.
Since the Jubilee government took over, they have had sometimes silent, other times all-out war with the civil society, to the extent that the government operatives have not been shy to label them names such as, quote, evil society, and accusations of driving foreign agenda are still rife. The current onslaught may have also begun when such posts began to appear after last week's general election. State online machinery kicked off with disparaging remarks meant to discredit the civil society. Some online postings, however, go far much back. The script has remained the same. The fear is that if this continues, the space for action by the civil society will be so small that the alternative voice will be diffused. Then they will opt for underhand tactics to survive.
We're going to see a lot of civil society activities going underground. And that is very dangerous, because then the government it will be very difficult for government to monitor them, because if then you are trying to muzzle them when they are operating in a legal environment, then what normally happens is that they go underground.
In the meantime, the onslaught continues. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
It's 24 minutes past the hour. You're watching NTV Tonight as part of our wider Decision 2017 coverage. We take a break here. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.
face of little Pendo stares out of a glass frame to a future she will never experience. A future snatched from her and her parents allegedly at the hands of the police, from the hands of her parents over the weekend.
I haven't get anything from the government as per now, but they say that they will come and talk to me. But as per now, I haven't get anything from government.
Miles away in Nairobi, Mathare area, another mother holds on to the only memory she has left of her child. Stephanie Mora, the other victim of alleged police excesses in quelling the pockets of violence that followed the announcement of the presidential election result. Now these families are united in grieving their daughters whose lives were allegedly taken by law enforcement officers.
I can't talk much right now because, as you can see, I'm so much emotional, and if I talk too much, I'll start crying, and it's not good for my health.
The two families are also bonded by their financial situations. Pendo's stay in the hospital racked up a bill of over 400,000 shillings, and among the family can't simply afford to raise in order to be given the body of their baby for burial.
Good Samaritans, some have paid like 56,830.
Stephanie's family, on the other hand, needs to raise funds for her burial.
Peana information iende kwa kila mmoja, kila Mkenya ambaye anahusika, tupate usaidizi, because familia vile mnapoiangalia na wale ambao mmekuja hapa na ile report ambayo imeonekana nje ni kwamba familia bado iko chini na iko changa na haijajiweza katika mpangilio hii.
That incident on Saturday not only robbed this family of their only daughter, it also destroyed their only source of livelihood. Before the tragedy befell them, Wycliffe, Stephanie's dad, was the sole breadwinner. From this stall, he sold vegetables and other supplies. That fateful day, all that and more was taken from him.
Hii iliharibiwa wakati watu walikuwa wanafinyamna hapa, wakati mtoto alikufa. Kwa sababu watu walikuwa wengi, kuna wengine walikuwa wanakaa juu, kuna wengine walikuwa wanasimama, watu walikuwa wengi ndio kimeharibika hivi.
Now he has a burial date for his daughter and no funds to fulfill the responsibility. Both families are seeking justice for their children, and while the official government statements may have seemed to have put that out of reach, a glimmer of hope now rests with the Independent Policing Oversight Authority.
For us as IPOA, we are independent of police. We are not part of police service. And it is our work to do exactly that, to ensure that at all times, justice is given to the victims. Except for me to say that IPOA would have to rely on facts and evidence at all times.
Towards this end, IPOA has requested and has been allocated special prosecutors to handle the cases of Pendo and Mora.
Yesterday, I was in a meeting with the Cabinet Secretary of Interior National Coordination, and he also actually assured us that the National Police Service will fully cooperate in respect to those cases.
IPOA is also investigating all cases of deaths and injuries caused by the police during this period and is expected to release a report as soon as the probe is over. In the meantime, the family of Stephanie is asking well-wishers to help give their daughter a decent send-off by contributing towards a burial through M-Pesa pay bill number 950534, account name Stephanie Mora. Those willing to help offset Samantha's hospital bill can do so by sending their contributions to M-Pesa pay bill number 946688. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
As the families seek justice and hope for it to be served, they are asking for your help rather, and it is something that you can come in and support in whichever way and amount. So we welcome the same. Of course, that story will be posted online and you can reach out through our various platforms. To another story, and veteran politician and multi-party democracy crusader Kenneth Matiba has been awarded 504 million shillings for his detention.
Well, although the 85-year-old former Kiharu MP will not regain his health, Justice Isaac Lenaola said the award should act as a reminder of the dark days of the Nyayo era.
In his ruling, Justice Lanola said Matiba suffered a stroke in 1991 but remained in detention without medication for a week.
But he ruled that the state foots only 20% of the almost 5 billion shillings that Matiba had sought for losses after his business crumbled. Justice Lanola said that real justice can be expensive and the compensation is a lesson that such injustice should not be visited upon anyone.
Matiba was a founder member of the opposition party Ford that split into Ford Kenya and Ford Asili, while he led the latter faction. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, the late father of ODM leader Raila Odinga, steered the other.
Time for a break right here on NTV Tonight. Our Decision 2017 returns with the business news with Dan Wangi. Stay with us.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. I'm Dan Wangi. Now, as the election season fades out, normalcy in supply of products to retailers is resuming, thereby avoiding worrying shortages. One of the affected supplies is that of subsidized maize meal in Nairobi Central Business District, where a shortage had been experienced despite millers saying there are enough stocks in their factories. The shortage of the ungogali in the capital CBD was experienced on the eve of election. The situation had normalized by Friday last week, only for the stocks to be cleared over the weekend owing to spiked demand. The Cereal Millers Association attributes the situation to factories having not been working at their full capacity since the election week, adding that it is no cause for concern. Retailers say last week's shortage resulted from logistical challenges as they could not get stocks from millers, but normalcy is resuming. Now, it has been a week since Kenyans went to the polls, and while business in most parts of the country has resumed, Kongowea Market in Mombasa is yet to receive clients. This is despite the doors being open. The traders decry the slow business environment, saying that the lack of customers is causing them losses. Most of the food sold at this market is perishable, and given that the market doesn't have a storage facility, a lot of the food is rotting. The traders are yet to clear their previous stock. This has forced them to cancel on new orders. The vendors have called upon the government to reassure Kenyans so that business goes back to normalcy completely. Some residents in Mombasa, however, say that the reason they are staying away from market is not.
Lakini sasa hii bei imeshuka 1200, 1300, hiyo ni 60 kg. Sasa gunia ziko tofauti. Kuna ile ya 90 kg imefika 25, mwisho 23. Kuna ile ya 150 kg iko 35. Naomba yani wananchi warejee kwa biashara zao na sisi ndio tupate kuuza, tupate kula. Nakata tukinunua tutauzia nani? Na watu hakuna.
Simu hizo siku za uchaguzi hatukuleta hizi boga. Na huwa tunaleta kila siku. Sasa sikawa kule Sabani zimekuwa nyingi. Na wakuraji bado ni wachache. Sasa ndio sababu zimejaa huku na zimefurika sana, hata zingine tunatupa kila siku hapa. Lakini tulikuwa tunaomba hawa wafanyabiashara ambao wanaleta hizi mboga wapunguze idadi ya kuleta, sababu wakuraji ni wachache.
Now to something more fresh. And have you ever thought of attending a meeting or even enjoying seafood delicacies at a suspended restaurant in a creek? Well, a group of locals in Mombasa have constructed what depicts a modern-day conference room and cuisine restaurant. Peter Mwangangi takes you to what is an initiative also aimed at conserving the mangrove ecosystem.
The green mangrove-dotted forest forms a canopy of refreshment over what was once a swampy Majaoni village in Utange in the county of Mombasa. The 20-hectare spread of tropical vegetation sits under the watch of a unique restaurant which serves this side of the country with the sight of an unusual structure. Inside the Mangrove Ecosystem Information Center is a conference hall which can host up to 100 people. The makuti thatch structure with wooden walls also has a restaurant among other facilities.
Tuko katika mazingira ya pwani, basi chakula chetu mara nyingi huwa tuna base na vitu vya bahari sana, wakiwemo samaki, kuna kaa, hiyo pia ni aina ya samaki, tuko na mashaza, pia vyakula hivyo vyote huwa tunatengeneza.
The facility, which has the Indian Ocean waters sweeping underneath its suspended structure, is managed by the Commensum Self-Help Group, which was started in 2012. Members say their only dream at the time was to save the reducing mangrove vegetation, which was affecting seafood supply.
Mikoko tunaipanda kwa sababu jamii zetu wameweza kuidhuru kwa kiasi kikubwa. Si kwa ubaya, lakini ni kwa sababu labda walikuwa hawana ufahamu wa kwamba wakidhuru mikoko, labda samaki, kaa na viumbe vyote vile vya baharini hapa vitaweza kupotea.
The group of 30 later received funding from the World Bank through Kenya Coast Development Program, and the fruit of the seed sowed is being enjoyed.
Ni mahali ambapo panasaidia wana jamii si chini ya 2,000 kihali ya kazi, ambalo ni lengo letu moja la huu mradi.
The breeze-induced rhythmic sways of the mangroves dance welcomingly to the many grooves of information at the establishment. Researchers and school children have been visiting to learn more about the 9 different types of mangroves, which are all available at the center. Peter Mwangangi, NTV, Mombasa.
Insurance premiums for marine cargo insurance, a nascent form of insurance, have gone up by 64% for the first half of 2017. The amount insured went up to 1.1 billion shillings compared to 694.9 million shillings at a similar period last year. That might sound impressive, but it falls far below the 5 billion shillings that industry players expected based on the country's import figures. The cumulative amount of insurance premiums for marine cargo is expected to spike next year following the successful amendment of the Marine Insurance Act Cap 390, which will make it compulsory for all imports of marine cargo to be insured as from next year. A man accused of stealing more than 50 million shillings from a stockbroker has been ordered to pay 4 million shillings as bond pending the hearing of the case. Our reporter Steve Juma has more from the Milimani courts.
The suspect, Abraham Kibet-Tow, a senior employee at Kestrel Capital East African Limited, is in the dock for allegedly obtaining millions of shillings in conspiracy with others not before court while on duty. In the charge sheet read to him before Milimani Chief Magistrate Francis Andai, the prosecution alleges that on the diverse dates between 2013 and 2015, with others yet to be arrested, and by the virtue of his employment as an employee of Kestrel Capital East African Limited, he stole 47,800,000 from his employer. The court also heard that on diverse dates between 23rd day of January and 14th of September 2015 at Kestrel Capital East African Limited, other than the cause of stealing, he dishonestly received 8,521,678 shillings. into his joint account held at Imperial Bank in the name of Abraham Kibet-To and Monica Kimeli, knowing or having reason to believe that it was a stolen property. The suspect pleaded not guilty to the charges of stealing by servant and handling stolen property contrary to the law and asked for lenient bond terms. The chief magistrate then ordered him to deposit 3 million shillings as cash bail or alternative bond of 4 million shillings and appear back in court September 4th this year for his trial. Steve Juma, NTV.
The United Nations is partnering with Kenya's private sector in seeking to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals SDGs, especially in climate change. This, the global body says, will aid in the achievement of SDGs as it cannot achieve the global target alone. The UN's local arm signed a memorandum of understanding with Telecom Safaricom, which over the years has adopted SDGs in its operations in areas such as clean energy, climate action, financial responsibility and water partnerships. The Vision 2030 Secretariat, which was also represented at the event, is also embarking on its third phase of implementation with focus on sustainability. The UN has also welcomed the government's ban on plastic bags.
So we access to 50 ppm, you have to pay extra at the release to get the country into the level where
the economic opportunity for us to embrace the Sustainable Development Goal is about $1.1 trillion, and it will create 85 million jobs. 85 million jobs, as a continent, we have a hell of a problem with population growth and failure to find jobs for these young people. That in itself leads to a problem. By adopting the Sustainable Development Goals, we have the opportunity to create 85 million jobs for young Africans.
We are looking for ways in which we can work with private sector and development partners to ensure that we give Kenya a clean, secure, and sustainable environment by 2030. And of course, if you look at what has been happening lately in terms of the drought, in terms of the problem of rains in the country, it is important that we address this correctly.
It's a decision made by the government of Kenya to phase out plastic bags and one-use plastics. This is now a great global trend. We see supermarkets in many parts of the world without plastics. We see Rwanda prohibiting plastics, and we see many nations taking action. And there is no doubt that within the next few years, single-use plastic will not be normal on the planet.
At this point, let's take a look at the financials, beginning with the NSC, that's Nairobi Securities Exchange, where we have the 20-share index being 4069.34, which is a drop from yesterday's 4114.01. NSC all-share index is at 166.79, and market cap has dropped slightly to 2.444 trillion. Equity turnover is at 1.14 billion, and 1.15 billion worth of bonds was traded today. Now, Safaricom tops the count of most active stocks, having traded 14.32 million shares, followed by Kengen at 6 million shares, or 6.08 to be precise. KCB 4.54 million, and Cooperative Bank at 3.88 million. Now we have the biggest gainer being Transcentury at 8 shillings and 10 cents per share, up 5.88%, followed by Home Africa, Mobius Sugar and Olympia Capital in that order at 4.55%, 4 and 3.55% respectively. EGADS, the biggest decliner today, having dropped 8.93% to close at 25.50 per share. Kengen is at 9 shillings and 20 cents, down 5.64%, followed by Barclays Bank and Uchumi is at 4 shillings and 20 cents per share, which is just above 4.5%. Now the US dollar is at 103.75, just a cent less than it was yesterday. Then we have the sterling pound at 133.48, and the euro coming from 122.39 is at 121.56. Within the continent, South African rand stayed unmoved at 7.79, and the Tanzanian shillings at 21.57, and the Ugandan shillings at 34.75, and the Rwandese franc stayed unmoved, just as was the case with South African rand, but for the Rwandese franc it's at 7.99, just 1 cent short of the 8 shilling mark. At this point, business, myself, financials, all done. Good night.
Laikipia County after the fire razed 2 different houses while they were inside.
The fire, which began at around 11:30 p.m. on Tuesday night, is said to have started from a candle that was lit in one of the houses where 3 children and a lady were, before then spreading to the neighboring house where 2 children were.
Melita Oletenges with the details.
Ashes are all that is left from what was initially home to 2 families. Jane Mudhoni weeps over the lives of her 2 children, whom she left in the house briefly to collect her clothes not too far from her house, only to return to find her house on fire with her 2 children inside.
Mimi nilileta watoto saa 5 ya usiku, nikaenda kuchukua nguo zangu, nilikuwa nimeosha huko kwa pati kwa sababu hapa kuna fubi. Kwenda hata sikumaliza 30 minutes. Sistangu akuja akiwa amelia, akaniambia kama nimehamisha watoto, nikamwambia walikuwa huko, akaniambia watoto wameshomeka. Kufika hapa nikakuta ameshomeka kwa mlango.
According to Laikipia County Commissioner Onesmus Musyoki, the fire is suspected to have originated from a candle lit in the neighboring house. However, the lady in the house was said to be drunk and could not respond to save the children.
Inaonekana kwamba ni kama kuna ile kando ambayo iliwachwa ikiwa inawaka. Pengine ndio iliweza kusababisha huyu moto ambao ulileta hii shida yote. Hiyo ndio ile tumeona, lakini uchunguzi utafanywa kikamilifu na tutajua, na tunajulishwa kwamba huyu mama pengine alikuwa hajisikii kwa sababu alikuwa ni kama alikuwa amelewa. Kwa hivyo angeweza kujiokoa, na wakati moto nyumba zilishika moto hakuweza kujua kilichokuwa kikiendelea.
Locals say they heard screams and shouts from the drunkards at night, hence locals were hesitant to get out and put out the fire.
Kama sio vile tunaregea kusema hiyo ni duru ya kawaida, hawa watoto wageokolewa. Juu tungesema kweli ukisikia duru, ujue duru na mayoya yake inasababisha hasara, so tungetoka kwa haraka.
Family, friends and neighbors continue to mourn the untimely death of 5 children and 1 woman who lost their lives in this night fire. However, the local administration maintains that investigations are underway to determine the exact cause of fire. Melita Oletenges in Matanya, Laikipia County.
In a moment, we'll be making way for Brian Otwal, who's standing by with the sports news. That's after the break.
Welcome to NTV Sport. My name is Brian Otwal. George Nyambo of Kabra Sugar will captain the Kenya Simbas against Hong Kong at the RFUA grounds on Sunday. The national team will also see 6 players make their international debuts, among them Ilkens Musonye and Brad Owako, as 4 other players return, including Biko Adema and Vincent Mose. The match is set for 3 p.m. on Sunday at the RFUA grounds. Sean Kadovilis reports.
Kenya will be aiming to erase the memories of a heavy defeat against Namibia in the Africa Gold Cup 3 weeks ago when the Simbas faced Hong Kong in an international test on Sunday. Kabrash Sugar's George Nyambua has been named captain for the team that sees the return of KCB's Oliver Mangeni, Biko Adema, Vincent Mose and Ronnie Monesi. Strathmore's Elkians Musonye, Alex Olaba, James Kubasu, Emmanuel Mavala, Brad Owako and Philip Ikambili are set to make their full debuts on Sunday.
We want to give the boys who have been learning the ropes and coming through, or getting one test here and there, or coming off the bench a lot. So these are the people now who are ready to step up from where they have reached.
The teams are evenly matched going into the game, with Hong Kong ranked 24th and Kenya 25th. The Simbas beat Hong Kong 34 points to 10 in last year's test.
Saturday, Sunday we had a crash program, and I'm proud to say that the union also has given us a lot of support in terms of players who maybe are up country. We've been accommodating them right here in Nairobi.
The match comes in the aftermath of a heated general election, and for this, security was part of the agenda as the team was announced at the RFUEA grounds.
Security will be provided as we will be provided in the other matches. The small issues which are being highlighted here and there on matters of insecurity is not here.
And the match kicks off at 3 p.m. on Sunday. Sean Carter-Villis, NTV.
And the national under-23 volleyball team will be looking to do more than just add up the numbers at the World Championships in Slovenia in September. Coach Catherine Mabui asserts that the pipeline of women's volleyball is alive and kicking, and that the youngsters in the under-23 team have already started challenging for senior team positions. Warotha Kiru with the details.
The junior Malkia strikers had a twerk in training at the Kasarani Indoor Gymnasium. These are the first steps on the road to Slovenia for the team, which along with Egypt will be the two African representatives at the World Championships early next month. 14 of the 16 players called up are in camp, and they have a month to get in shape.
It is good training because competitive training amongst players normally gives us the best players at the end of the day.
The junior Malkia strikers are in a tough Pool A alongside defending champions Brazil, runners-up Turkey, Japan, Bulgaria and Cuba, all of whom are ranked way above Kenya in the FIVB rankings.
It's okay. We can't control the pooling. We just have to work hard so that we can play in that championship.
The national women's volleyball team, the Malkia strikers, dazzle in the continental stage but struggle on the international stage. Coach Mabui, who's assisted by Kenya Prisons coach Joseph Baraza and KCB coach Vermon Kainga, is determined to change this perception and believes her charges have what it takes to deliver.
They always think Kenya cannot do anything. We are underdogs, and we want to at least try and believe that this time we are trying to improve. We are not the same Kenyan team that has always been, especially in this category of the underage.
In the recently concluded Zone 5 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, which the Malkia strikers won, a couple of under-23 players, including Anne Loem and Celestine Nyongesa, turned up for the senior team. For Coach Mabui, this is a testament of the functional pipeline for women's volleyball in the country.
When they qualify to fight amongst the seniors and get to the 14 players, that is a good effort for them and also a good exposure.
The national women's volleyball team, the Malkia Strikers, has dominated volleyball in Africa in the recent past. With the junior Malkias qualifying for the World Championships, Kenya is assured of dominance for the foreseeable future. Warote Kiru, NTV, at the Kasarani Indoor Gymnasium.
Moving on, the assumption of office of the President's Subcommittee this morning toured the Kasarani Stadium in preparation for the swearing-in ceremony for the President. An area of concern is the newly installed blue tartan truck, and the chairman of the subcommittee, who is the principal administrative secretary in the Ministry of Interior, Joseph Irungu, gave an assurance that protective measures will be taken to preserve it. The Kasarani Stadium was recently refurbished to host the IAAF Under-18 World Athletics Championships, but the government officially spoke of debranding to give it a more localized feel.
We have made a proposal that the track is not exposed to the kind of charge you've mentioned. We are likely to cover it. We are likely to cover it so that we can preserve it. The facility is in very good shape, courtesy of that IAF ceremony we had here, and I think it is in quite good shape. All we need to do possibly is to debrand it a little, so that we can be able to use it when it's in clean status. But basically,
moving on, Trent Alexander-Arnold's brilliant goal helped Liverpool win 2-1 at Hoffenheim in the first leg of their UEFA Champions League playoff round clash that was Tuesday night. The 18-year-old fired in a 30-yard free kick in the 35th minute after Simon Mignolet had...
Interpretation. Good night.
I'm Smriti Vidyarthi. Stay tuned though, Sidebar is up next.